I always thought my parents valued fairness above all else. Growing up in our modest suburban home, they preached equal treatment between my brother Jake and me. For years, I helped manage their finances, paid their bills when they struggled, and even contributed to their mortgage payments. Then came that rainy Tuesday afternoon when I accidentally discovered their will on Dad's desk. One glance at that document shattered 36 years of trust in an instant. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if family drama stories resonate with you. My name is Calvin, and at 36, I had built a successful career as a financial advisor. I worked hard for everything I had, putting myself through college while working 2 jobs and slowly climbing the corporate ladder. Now, I had a comfortable life with my wife Amanda and our 2 children, Emily and Michael, ages 8 and 10. My parents, Harold and Martha, were in their late 60s and had retired about 5 years ago. They had always been middle-class dad, having worked as a high school teacher, and mom as a part-time receptionist at a dental office. Their retirement income was modest primarily from dad's pension and their Social Security benefits. They lived in the same 3-bedroom house where Jake and I grew up, a house that was nearly paid off, but still had about 7 years left on the mortgage. Speaking of Jake, my younger brother was 33 and quite different from me. While I had moved out at 18 for college and never returned, Jake had bounced between different jobs and living situations. For the past 3 years, he had been living in our parents' converted garage that they called the guest house. He worked part-time at a local hardware store, but never seemed to have money to contribute to household expenses. My parents always made excuses for him, saying he was still finding his path. I had always been close to my parents, or so I thought. I called them several times a week and visited at least twice a month with my family. When they started struggling financially after retirement, I stepped in to help. It started small, covering a property tax bill they were short on, but gradually increased over time. For the past 5 years, I had been regularly helping them with various expenses. I paid half their mortgage each month, which amounted to $700. I covered their car insurance, home insurance, and had even paid for a new roof last year when theirs started leaking. When Dad needed dental work, not covered by insurance, I handed over $3,000 without hesitation. All told, I had given them well over $40,000 in the past 5 years alone. Amanda had questioned this arrangement multiple times. We had our own mortgage, car payments, and were trying to save for our children's college funds. She never demanded I stop helping my parents, but she rightfully pointed out that Jake contributed nothing while living there rent-free. My standard response was always, "They raised me, and now it is my turn to take care of them. Besides, everything will be split between Jake and me someday." How wrong I was. It was just another Tuesday when I drove to my parents' house to help them organize their finances and set up automatic payments for some of their bills. They were having trouble adjusting to online banking, and I wanted to make things easier for them. Dad was in the backyard gardening, and Mom had gone to her book club meeting. They had told me to make myself at home in Dad's office and get what I needed. I was looking for their tax documents in Dad's desk drawer when I found it. A folder labeled Will and Testament caught my eye. I probably should not have opened it, but I was curious about their estate planning, especially since I was the one helping them financially. I assumed it would contain what I had always expected, an equal split between Jake and me. The shock I felt reading that document is indescribable. The house, all bank accounts, investments, family heirlooms, and even the car I had helped them buy last year were all left exclusively to Jake. My name appeared only once in a paragraph, stating that I was intentionally not included as a beneficiary, as Calvin has already established himself financially. I sat there stunned, reading and rereading the document, hoping I had misunderstood. But there was no misunderstanding. My parents had decided that Jake deserved everything, even the things I had paid for, while I deserved nothing. When my parents returned home, I confronted them, immediately holding the will in my shaking hand. The look on their faces was not guilt or shame, but annoyance that I had found it. You were not supposed to see that Dad said taking the document from my hands. Why was all I could manage to ask. Why everything to Jake and nothing to me? Mom sighed as if I was being difficult. Calvin, you have to understand, Jake needs it more than you do. You have a good job, a nice house, a family. Jake has nothing saved for his future. And whose fault is that? I asked, my voice rising. I have worked for everything I have. I put myself through college, built my career from nothing. And, for the past 5 years, I have been supporting you both financially, while Jake contributes nothing. And this is how you repay me. We are not discussing this, Dad said firmly. What we do with our property is our decision. You should not have been snooping through my desk. The argument escalated from there. I pointed out all I had done for them, the money I had given them, the time I had invested. They dismissed it all, saying I had given that freely and should not expect anything in return. When Jake arrived home during our argument and learned what had happened, he had the audacity to smirk at me as if he had won some competition I did not even know we were having. I left their house that day, feeling like I had been punched in the gut. The drive home that evening remains a blur in my memory. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white, and I barely registered the familiar streets I traveled. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat in my car for nearly 20 minutes, trying to compose myself before facing Amanda and the kids. Inside, Amanda took one look at my face and sent the children upstairs to do their homework. She guided me to the kitchen table and placed a cup of coffee in front of me. "What happened?" she asked gently. When I told her about the will, her reaction mirrored what I was feeling. First shock, then disbelief, and finally indignation on my behalf. "After everything you have done for them," she exclaimed, "all the money we could have put toward our own family. That is just wrong, Calvin. It is wrong and you know it." That night's sleep eluded me. I stared at the ceiling, while Amanda slept beside me, my mind replaying years of interactions with my parents and Jake. Had I missed signs that they valued him more? Was there something I could have done differently? Had they ever truly appreciated my help, or had they simply come to expect it? The next morning, I pulled out our financial records and calculated exactly how much money I had given my parents over the years. The total made me sick to my stomach, $42,836 over 5 years. That did not even include the countless hours I had spent managing their finances, researching the best insurance policies for them, taking them to medical appointments, and all the other ways I had supported them. During that week, specific memories kept surfacing. The time I canceled a family vacation to help them replace their furnace when it broke in the middle of winter. The Christmas I spent $1,500 on gifts for them, while Jake gave them dollar store items. The weekends I spent fixing things around their house while Jake slept in or went out with friends. And through it all, my parents making excuses for Jake's behavior and lack of contribution. My work suffered that week. Colleagues noticed my distraction, and I had to reschedule meetings because I could not focus. I developed pounding headaches and lost my appetite. Amanda worried about me, but I could not shake the profound sense of betrayal I felt. After 7 days of internal turmoil, clarity finally came to me during my morning shower. The water was running over my head when I realized a simple truth. I did not owe my parents unlimited financial support, especially not when they had made it clear they did not value my contributions. That evening, after the kids were in bed, I drafted an email to my parents. I chose email because I wanted to be clear and unemotional, and I knew a phone call would likely devolve into another argument. I explained that I had been reflecting on our relationship and the financial support I had provided. I stated that I would no longer be contributing to their mortgage bills or other expenses. I emphasized that this decision was not made out of anger, but out of a need to prioritize my own family's financial security. I did not explicitly tell them to ask Jake for help, but the implication was clear. I also set boundaries about my future involvement with their finances. I would no longer be managing their accounts or researching insurance options for them. I ended the email by saying, I still love them and would continue to visit, but our relationship needed to change. Hitting send on that email felt like setting down a heavy burden I had been carrying for years. A weight lifted from my shoulders, and for the first time in a week, I slept soundly. My parents' initial response was dismissive. Dad called the next day saying, "You will change your mind. You always do what is right." The implication being that right meant continuing to support them while they left everything to Jake. Jake called me 2 days later, his voice dripping with manufactured concern. "Mom and Dad are really upset, Calvin. They counted on your help. You cannot just abandon them like this. That is not what family does. Family also does not disinherit the child who has supported them for years," I replied before ending the call. Despite the pressure from both my parents and Jake, I remained firm in my decision. When we attended a family dinner the following Sunday, the tension was palpable. My parents acted as if nothing had changed, but I could see the strain in their smiles. Jake avoided making eye contact with me. I kept the conversation light for my children's sake, but inside, I was still hurting. For the next month, contact with my parents became minimal. They called occasionally, usually to tell me about some expense they were struggling with, clearly hoping I would offer to help. I deflected these hints and changed the subject. Jake stopped calling me altogether. With the money I was no longer sending to my parents, Amanda and I took our children on a weekend trip to a water park they had been wanting to visit. Seeing their excitement and joy made me realize how many family experiences we had postponed because of my financial obligations to my parents. Then came the text that changed everything. One Monday morning, while I was preparing for a client meeting, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. No greeting, no pleasantries, just, "The mortgage is due." The audacity of that message, the expectation that I would simply comply, despite everything that had happened, ignited an anger in me I had been suppressing. After several deep breaths, I typed a simple reply. "Ask Jake. He is getting everything anyway." What followed was a barrage of communication that made my head spin. My mother called 6 times in a row, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails about how they might lose the house. My father sent a lengthy text accusing me of being selfish and forgetting my family values. Jake left a message calling me every name in the book. The situation escalated when my father showed up at my office 2 days later. He walked past my assistant and burst into a client, meeting his face red with anger. "We need to talk right now," he demanded, seemingly oblivious to the professional setting or my stunned clients. I had to excuse myself, profusely apologizing to my clients, and take my father to an empty conference room where he proceeded to berate me for abandoning them. He left only when I threatened to call building security, and the incident left me embarrassed and furious. The family drama spread beyond my immediate family. Aunts, uncles, and cousins started calling me some, taking my side after hearing my version of events, others condemning me for not supporting my parents in their time of need. The emotional toll was significant despite my conviction that I was doing the right thing. The most hurtful message came from my father via email, where he wrote, "You are acting like a selfish stranger, not our son. We raised you better than this." The irony of him accusing me of not acting like family while they had disinherited me was apparently lost on him. The situation reached its breaking point 3 Sundays after the mortgage text. Amanda, the kids, and I were enjoying a peaceful dinner when the doorbell rang insistently. I opened the door to find both my parents standing there, looking determined. "We need to talk," my mother said, pushing past me into the house without waiting for an invitation. "You cannot just show up unannounced," I protested. But they were already in my living room, my father pacing and my mother sitting rigidly on the edge of the couch. Amanda took one look at the situation and ushered the children upstairs, whispering, "Stay calm," to me as she passed. "We might lose the house." Calvin, my mother, began, tears welling in her eyes. "The bank called about the mortgage payment being late, and we do not have enough to cover it." "Where is Jake?" I asked, noticing my brother's absence. Why is he not here helping you solve this problem? Jake does not have any money, my father said dismissively. You know that. We are talking about you right now. You need to act like our son and help us. Years of suppressed feelings suddenly burst forth. Act like your son, I repeated, incredulously. You mean the son you have been taking advantage of for years? The son you decided deserves nothing from your estate despite supporting you financially. That son. My mother's tears flowed freely now. You know we love you, Calvin, but you have always been the responsible one, the successful one. Jake needs our help more than you do. So I get punished for being responsible, for working hard, for building a good life. I pace the room now, unable to contain my frustration. Do you have any idea how much I have given you over the years? Do you even care? We never asked you for all that money, my father countered. You offered, because that is what family does, I replied, my voice rising. Family helps each other. But family also acknowledges and appreciates that help. Family does not take and then leave everything to the child who contributed nothing. At that moment, Amanda returned to the living room, carrying a folder. She silently handed it to me with a supportive nod. I opened it to reveal a spreadsheet she had created, documenting every penny we had given my parents over the years. I placed it on the coffee table in front of them. Look at this, I said more calmly. Look at what we have given you, money that could have gone toward our own children's future, and you never even considered changing your will to reflect that reality. My parents stared at the spreadsheet in silence for a long moment. Finally, my father spoke, his voice quieter than before. We never changed the will because we assumed you would always take care of things, Calvin. You always have. And we thought Jake would need the house and whatever little money we have left when we are gone. The admission stunned me. They had simply assumed I would continue supporting them indefinitely while getting nothing in return. The unfairness of it all hit me anew. I think you should leave now, I said quietly. But the mortgage, my mother began. Ask Jake, I repeated firmly. Or sell some of your possessions. Or downsize to a smaller place. There are solutions that do not involve taking advantage of me anymore. After they left, I sat in silence, feeling both liberated and deeply saddened. Amanda put her arms around me, and I leaned into her embrace, grateful for her unwavering support. You did the right thing, she whispered. It was long overdue. The weeks following that confrontation were difficult but healing. On Amanda's suggestion, I started seeing a therapist to process the complex emotions surrounding the situation with my parents. Dr. Lawson helped me understand that my feelings of betrayal and anger were valid, but also guided me toward accepting what had happened and moving forward without bitterness. I reconnected with friends I had neglected while spending so much time helping my parents. Tom and Brian, college buddies I had not seen in almost a year, invited me to their weekly basketball game. Playing sports again, something I used to love but had abandoned due to lack of time, brought joy back into my life. At home, my relationship with Emily and Michael deepened. I had more time and energy to help with homework, attend their school events, and simply play with them. One evening, as I was teaching Michael how to ride his bike without training wheels, I realized how many moments like this I had missed while running back and forth to my parents' house, fixing their problems. Amanda and I also benefited from the change. With our finances less strained, we finally planned the anniversary trip to Hawaii we had been postponing for 3 years. As we researched resorts and activities, I felt a lightness I had not experienced in years. Through mutual family friends, I learned my parents had been forced to make significant changes. They had put their house on the market and were looking at apartments. Jake had apparently moved out when they asked him to contribute financially, finding an apartment with friends, almost immediately proving he had more resources than they had led me to believe. 3 months after our confrontation, I received an unexpected email from my mother. Unlike her demanding text about the mortgage, this message began with a genuine apology. She acknowledged taking advantage of my generosity and expressed deep regret for the hurt they had caused me. My father had added a note at the end, saying they had done a lot of soul-searching and realized how unfair they had been. They asked if they could come see me, promising to respect my boundaries. After discussing it with Amanda, I agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a coffee shop near my office. When I arrived, they looked different somehow. Humbler, perhaps. My mother handed me an envelope as soon as we sat down. Inside was their new will, showing an equal split of all assets between Jake and me. They had also written a letter formally acknowledging all I had done for them and expressing their gratitude. "We were wrong, Calvin," my father said, his voice cracking slightly. "We took you for granted because you were always so capable and reliable. We failed to see how our actions were hurting you. I did not immediately forgive them, but this gesture opened the door to healing our relationship." Over the following months, we rebuilt our connection on healthier terms. I still visited them in their new apartment now, with clearer boundaries. They never asked me for money again, and I saw them making efforts to manage their own finances responsibly. The experience changed me profoundly. I realized that being taken advantage of had partly been my responsibility too. I had never set clear boundaries or expectations about my financial help. I had allowed the imbalance to continue for years without addressing it directly. I learned that true family relationships are not transactional, but they do require mutual respect and appreciation. By setting boundaries, I had not only protected myself and my immediate family, but had actually improved all my relationships. My parents now respected me in a way they never had before, and our interactions had a new authenticity that had previously been missing. This experience also made me more intentional about how I taught my own children about money, family obligations, and self-respect. I wanted them to understand the importance of helping others, but also the necessity of valuing themselves and their contributions. Looking back, I can see that sometimes the most difficult decisions are the most necessary ones. Prioritizing my own family did not mean abandoning my parents. It meant creating a healthier dynamic for everyone involved. By standing up for myself, I taught everyone in my life, including myself, an invaluable lesson about respect and boundaries. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between helping family and protecting yourself? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to hear more stories about family dynamics and personal growth. Share this with someone who might be struggling with similar family issues, as sometimes knowing we are not alone in these challenges can make all the difference. Thank you for listening, and remember that setting healthy boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for all relationships to thrive.